What's the biggest change you hope to see from your defense?
Hopefully, we're going to be better fundamentally, more sound. I don't know if we were doing too much, but we've tried to simplify things as much as we can so that we can play faster. I think the one disappointing thing about the Arizona game, when you look at it, the results are disappointing, obviously, but the more disappointing thing is just there was times where it just didn't seem like we were playing with any gusto, and that's the stuff that's got to get changed. I think if we play our tails off and we're sound in what we're doing, we can live with the results. If we're not good enough to beat somebody, we're not good enough to beat somebody, but I think that we'll find that we are. So I think the biggest thing that you're going to see is how we play and the enthusiasm that we play with.
Gap responsibility has been an issue, but even when the guys are in the right place, are they just kind of in the right place and not really attacking the play?
I would say that's accurate to some degree. I wouldn't say that's accurate across the board, but there was times certainly in Arizona where, there's somebody standing in the hole and we're catching tackles and falling backward. One that was particularly disappointing was, it was a short, I don't know, it was 3rd and 4 or something, and it ended up they get a first down on a run play that probably should have been stopped for no gain. It was the one that they measured and reviewed and whatever, and they got the ball back, and then they went down and got a field goal on that drive. Those are the kind of things that are just they're frustrating, and they're not just frustrating to the coaches; they're frustrating to the players too. Because there are, like I said, it's not universal. There are some players that are really playing their tails off, and so I hope that we're all on the same page now as players and get that fixed.
Who have been some of those players that have kind of stood out to you?
From a leadership standpoint,
leadership
I think there's
players.
several. I think we've got a strong group of guys in there on the defensive side of the ball. I think the ones that pop out as vocal, Austin Romaine is a very vocal guy that's not been bashful about that. Damian Elalio's been very vocal. Cody Stufflebean's been very vocal. VJ Payne. I mean, there's a lot of guys that have done a great job in that role. And the problem is it's not a guy or a if that was the problem, we'd root that out as coaches. You can point to anybody on the defense, and you'll find some good plays, and then you're going to find a bust. And it's just unfortunate that some of those busts that sometimes you're able to get away with, we're not getting away with them at all. And so it's spread out across people, and that's it's not things that they don't know. It's not things that they can't do. It's not things that they haven't done. It's just things that are sometimes happening. And so I think that kind of grows in these players, and they get stressed, and they feel like they got to be perfect, and that's why they're playing slow. And so I think the message to them this week is just cut it loose, guys. We can play the best ball in the national championship team is not going to be perfect. There's going to be mistakes that get made, but you overcome those mistakes by how hard you play. And I think that's been the message that the leaders that have played a lot of football for us are trying to get across.
Has it been hard at all to surprise teams with blitzes this season when you're going with 4 down linemen as opposed to 3?
No, I wouldn't say that. I think we haven't been as effective as of a blitz team. I will say that this year, and I don't think it's because of the element of surprise. I just we're working that out. I think with some of the angles and some of the things that we're coming at people with, and so that's we've been an okay blitz team. I'd say we just haven't. It's not as meaning. I mean, there's some that are very successful, but then there are others that are. Those are some of the ones that we're hopping out of a gap, or we're hopping out of and those are some of the things that we inexcusable execution errors.
You like from sorry if I mispronounced the name, but Coy Moss this season.
Coy Moss, yeah.
Did I get that right?
The thing about Quay, and he's learning as a player, but he is one of those guys that's going to play his tail off. He is one of those guys that's going to play with energy. We've had those kind of catalyst type guys. I've used the word catalyst, be a catalyst with the players. He's that. He's an infectious energy guy that plays with a ton of intensity. He's one of those perfect examples of guys that doesn't always do things perfectly from a technique standpoint. We're working on that. That's, as a new player, that's something that's going to develop. But he's an infectious energy guy when he's out there, and I think the players appreciate that.
think it's 7 quarterback rushing touchdowns against you guys so far this year. Just as far as containing them, and I know the UCF quarterback's coming off a good rushing game. Just what's going to go into trying to improve upon that?
Yeah, I mean that's I didn't know that stat until you said it. Makes my heart heavy, but I we're accounting for the quarterback in a lot of things, especially when we're playing against teams that are going to rush the quarterback like that. And, look, like if you're playing Army and they're going to run quarterback sneak, I know we had a quarterback sneak touchdown in North Dakota from the inch line. Some of those, that's got nothing to do with the schematics. That's just, what it is. Low man wins. But we're accounting for the quarterback in those things. And I think the big thing is we've got to contain these guys in the scramble, in the pass. That's one thing that we haven't been very good at is third down defense down in the low red zone. You get them into those things. I think fourth down defense, I guess it was against Army, and the quarterback gets outside the pocket and contain, in a pass rush, and he gets scrambling. You're gonna have some problems there. So it's just more of pocket presence on third down and just hitting fits fast on base downs.
Is any players that maybe have seen less playing time kind of earned a little more looks this week?
I'll just give some guys that come to my mind. It's good to have Ryan Davis back in a rhythm. I was just saying to somebody else, he kind of went into the Arizona game with 2 strikes against him because, he hadn't practiced much. He just had gotten cleared early in that week, and he had a ton of expectation on him, and then B, as an Arizona guy, and his nature is just really intense. He was probably too amped up to play effectively. He wasn't loose at all. He was he was frantic, and he had a couple of obviously a penalty on the sideline that was a third down, and some of those things that he didn't play his best. So I think getting him more and more will be effective. I tell you, Malcolm Crowder's had a couple of good weeks here during the bye time. Gabe Powers has continued to improve. We're using in the safety room, we're using Logan Bartley more and more. He's had a couple of really good weeks. So Daniel Cobbs is another name that comes to mind. We've had some guys that have had a couple good weeks here in practice.